Okay, welcome back, kids. This is Pedigree 1 worksheet. I've kind of already talked to you about this. I've done number 1 for you, and I've actually done 1 through 4, but I will do that again very quickly. So we get our text box, and it says right here, the keywords are hemophilia and X-linked recessive disease. So in this case, I'm going to move this over to here. So we know it's X-linked, so this is 2 X's right here. And then we have what X and Y over here. All right, so I'm gonna move that down just a little bit. Okay, obviously we have females as circles and males as squares, and they're both shaded, which means that they do have the disease. All right, so since they're both recessive, okay, we're gonna have one small r here, one small r here, then over here, remember, there's only one X, so we have a small r there. All right, so it said draw a Punnett square also. So it says females are, okay, they're just doing that. So I'm gonna have, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do it this way then. All right, so I have X, Y on top. Okay, and I'm gonna have an X here and down here. Okay, all right, I can leave that, no, I'll leave it there. All right, on the over here, I'm gonna have like a small r and a small r. Okay, looks good to me. All right, and then I have one more up here. All right, so what does that mean? So if we just take a look at this, we can see that what everything's gonna have a small r in the box. So in the first box, it would be what? XX with 2 small r's. That same thing on the bottom, and then the top on the right side is going to be the boys, XY with a small r and XY with a small r. So it's 100% they're going to have hemophilia, these two mate. All right, let's move on to number 2, right? The genotype of the parents next to their shapes, these are the parents. Then do a Punnett square for the autosomal recessive disease shown in the cross. So we don't know exactly what the disease is, but they did give us a clue that it was autosomal. So this has to be this. And we're going to make this one heterozygous for only one reason. All right, because then they can actually have 50-50. So if I go over here, I do my 2 B's here, and we go over here, and we have our small, we should be able to look at this and figure out big, small here, too small, too small. So it's like 50% will have it, okay? 50% probably won't, but it'll be carriers of whatever disease that is. All right, remember, and I think you saw one of the problems that, there can be carriers of a disease, and it can be both males and females as long as it's autosomal. Autosomal, you could have a half and a half, and we've seen that, or one has a whole and one has a half. All right, so that's definitely possible with autosomal, meaning chromosomes 1 through 22. All right, number 3, the father shown below has hemophilia, X-linked recessive disorder. If this couple had sons, could the son have a different disease? What genotype would have to be for that child? All right, so again, we're talking X-linked again. So she has 2 X's here. He has an XY over here. XY. So we have that going for us. And now, what does she have to have? Well, she doesn't have that, so we know she has to have a big R. She probably has to have a small r. Now, he has it. So obviously it's a recessive disorder. So he has a small r right there. Now, why do we make her heterozygous? Because then when we have this, and if we just did it with the r's, and maybe that might be easier for you. Okay, so we're just going to put one r here, and we're going to put nothing over here. And then over here, okay, we're going to have big R and small r. The reason why we have nothing over here is because we have a Y chromosome. So over here, we're going to have what? Big, small. Okay, and over here, we're just going to have big. And you'll see what I'm doing in a second. And right here, we're going to have small, small, and over here, small. So if we said that we had X and Y on this side and X and X on this side, we can clearly see what genotypes would be possible for the son. Son would have to have this genotype right here. So it would be this whole genotype that you see right here would also have to be the son's. All right, moving on to number 4. And I kind of showed you this one also in class. All right. And I said, rule number 1 stated, is there any child, okay, children that have parents that have completely different genotypes or phenotypes than themselves? Well, this one's shaded and these aren't shaded. So the answer is yes. And I said, then it cannot be a dominant trait. And let's just think about why. Okay, well, if this is a dominant trait and it has, let's say, just one capital B, all right, we'll make it that. These, because they're not shaded, wouldn't they all have to be small b's? Okay, because they weren't shaded. Well, they can never give a capital B, so that's why that rule exists. All right, the second rule stated that, I'm going to get rid of this. Trash can. Okay, that if we have a daughter that is recessive, because we've said it's an X-linked recessive disorder. Oh, it's asking what it is. So it obviously, if it's not dominant because the parents are completely different, and it has to be recessive, then do they have a father or a son that has a different genotype? And the answer is yes. And I said it couldn't be X-linked. So what does that mean? Well, at the very top, that means we have to have big, small, and we have to have big, small, and then down here, we have to have small, small, and then the right side, it's going to be what? Big, and we don't know. All right, so that's why I put that line on there. So the answer is autosomal recessive. And that was a perfect one to show you how these things are done. Now, number 5 is a little tricky because it can be any of these things. If you work it out, and we'll just work out autosomal recessive, well, if the disease is autosomal recessive, then that means that the ones that are shaded have the lowercase gene, all right, and the ones that don't, okay, so this is a small b, and this is what? What could it be? Well, it'd have to be that, wouldn't it? Could that actually become true? Yes. What happens if I just switch these two? Well, then the answer is still yes. What about X-link? Can I put an X underneath that? The answer is still yes. So the reason why is we only have a distribution of 4 people. It says explain why. And what do we see? Both a male and female have the disease and a male and female don't. Like this is a perfect symmetry. So again, in this case, we couldn't figure necessarily out exactly which one it is. So there are some cases that are like this that it's kind of up in the air. And so sometimes we have to look for clues into the question. All right, let's move on to number 6. Which individual or what number in the pedigree rules out X-linked dominant? Over down here. So, and then which individual in the pedigree rules out autosomal recessive? And explain why. Okay. And then which individual in the pedigree rules out X-linked recessive? So what rules out X-linked? Don't we have to have a child that has parents that are totally different than they are? Okay. And that rules out dominant. Okay, that's first. Don't we have to have a woman who's recessive? Well, we have 2 different women right here, okay, who has a father with a different genotype. So there's no way it can be, X-linked as well. But we need to, which individual is the number rules out X-linked dominant? This whole box right here. Can't even put it like this. All right. Right down here. These 2. So it's the answer for this is I would call it let's do 1, 2, 3. Oh, that doesn't look right. All right, so we're gonna do I dash, what is it, 7? And then I'm putting I's in there. 1, 2, 3 dash 8. Okay. All right. And actually, that's not even true because it really is 4, 1 that does it. But we can put that as well. So IV-4. All right, that's the individual right here, this one that actually rules out everything. All right, so which individual in the pedigree rules out autosomal recessive? Guess what? It has to be this one too, because autosomal recessive, all these are all little ones. This one cannot be, have a big one in it. So again, it's the same answer. So I'm gonna delete that. We'll just type it in this way. That IV-4. All right, so we'll actually 4 dash 1, dash 1, there's only one in that generation. Okay, so that's the one. So that answers both of them. Which individual in the pedigree rules out X-linked recessive, and briefly explain why. Okay, now we have a few individuals that can, rule that out. We can have individuals 2-1 and 2-4, and the reason why is she has a father that's obviously has a different genotype than she, and so therefore that doesn't work out. All right, what about 2? No. All right, well, another shaded one. Well, this one has the same father. He had a lot of kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, and his last daughter also rules it out. So there is some reasons why, okay? And there's no way that he can have a daughter, remember, because he has to give his picture this, big XY with a capital letter, and she has 2 little letters. Well, he has to give only one. So there's no way he can be X-linked recessive. All right, let's go on to the next part. So this is modes of inheritance. This is what I also said. Like, this is the one I was talking about. Since both of them are split, they both have to be heterozygous and they have to be autosomal. There's just no choice for them. Because if the male had it, he would have the whole thing. He would not be a carrier. But could you be a carrier of a different disease? And the answer is yes. Wouldn't that also match up for this one being 2 small b's? So again, I'm giving you the explanation, but we know this is autosomal recessive. All right, and I gave you the explanation. Okay. All right. Both of the genotypes right here are, obviously heterozygotes, which gives you a reason why it can't be. All right, let's go down to this one. Okay, it skips a generation and it has all males. Guess what it is? So this is X-linked. Okay, and it's recessive. Why? Because it skipped a generation. Okay, well, let's see if I'm right. All right, so if I go up here, and so I said the disease is X-linked recessive. So we're going to put 2X here. I'll put an XY right here. All right, and watch. So if I have that going, and at the very top, I go over here and I put one big R, and we'll just do small, and I put a small R over here. Can we have these children? 1, 2, 3. Well, yeah, because remember, mom could give that big R to each one of these children because they all have the X from mother. Okay, could that happen with this one? Yeah, it could happen as well. All right, but could she also give him the small one? Yes. So that proves that it has to be X-linked recessive. All right, moving on to this one. I asked some of you in class, what do you think? Is this dominant or recessive? Well, it appears to be dominant because what do we see? One of the rules is basically we see people in every generation have it. Okay, so we say it's probably dominant, but can we rule out the fact that it's X-linked? Well, we probably can. And one of the reasons is, okay, after the first generation, what do we see? 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 individuals have it, and about, it's almost 50-50. So it's not just males have it. So the mode of inheritance would be autosomal dominant. Let's see if that works out. Okay, and it may not. Okay, so there's sometimes where the incidences don't work out, but that's our guess to begin with. So if it's autosomal, we'll use B's this time. We'll put one big and one small. It's obviously going to have that if we have individuals in this generation that have the trait. Now, he probably has to be that. And why do I say that? Because he has this daughter right here. Okay, I'm going to go over to here to this one, and obviously we have to have 2 small b's, right? So could they have either? Yeah, that's true. Let's go over to here. This one has to have 2 small as well. We go all the way down to here. We probably have a biggie smalls, and right here we have 2 small. All right, so it looks like it's working out. So you can kind of see that how this is going to go. Let's just finish like this section. So if I have this one and they have these 3 children, could these 2 have either one? Yeah, we're going to have 50%. So they can have this child, they can have this child, they can have this child. Quite obviously, these 2 could definitely, if they have the same genotype right here. So This time she has a big B and a small b. So would this work out if it was X-linked? And the answer is no, because she wouldn't be getting that. She'd have a father with the same genotype. All right, so the answer is autosomal dominant. All right. Okay, this is pedigree worksheet number 2. I said I would do a few problems. Now, this one all up here, all you have to do is look at which one it is. Now, remember, like they have numbers usually. So this is 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, just all the way across in each different generations. So if that's what it says asking. So make sure you're reading this correctly to make sure you understand which of the generations it has. It has it better explained on the paper in class, and I prefer you do that because this one does not have near as many questions. All right, so when we look at this, I told you it's probably recessive. Okay, could it be X-linked? All right, well, if it's recessive, does she have a father that has a different genotype than her? And the answer is yes. So this could be X-linked recessive as well. Just have to figure it out. I'm just giving you hints on this. All right, if I look at this, we see that what? A lot of the circles, and circles only, basically, right? Okay, they are carriers, and the males have it. That tells me it's X-linked. And this one has the disease itself, but she has to have both. Oh, she does have both parents that have the possible combination of it, and that's why she has it. X-linked dominant. Okay, good idea. Figure out how to do that. That's basically this much is worksheet on here by Saturday. Now, in first glance, like nobody in the top generation has these things. And then the second generation has it, and the third generation doesn't, and the fourth generation does. And then what happens? Fifth generation, but both of these people have the disease.